welcome to this session. We're going to be talking about school choice today. Let me make sure I got this right because it ain't doing right. All right, now, everybody. Hey, so welcome. This is Walt Black. We're going to be talking about school choice today. And as we know, there was some news this past week that we're going to have a hard time at the ballot. There's a judge ruling that says they threw that out. The judge threw the case out. There was a proposition that went to the ballot, or that was attempting to go to ballot, and as you know, yesterday, judge threw it out, and it's going to really hurt us, actually, and most of all, it's going to hurt military kids. And I've got some thoughts about that also, of why I think. I'll talk about that later. I've got some problems with that later. So let's get into it really quickly. And first of all, we know I talked a little bit about it a couple of weeks ago about school choice. Let me give you some quick facts about about our schools here in Arizona. So as of 2026, the Wall Hub reports and place Arizona at 46 overall and 46 in quality when we're talking about schools, the rating of the schools. Consumer Affairs ranks Arizona at 50 among 50 states with K through 12 outcomes, and overall it's ranking 49. Now, in funding, it's saying that under the newest census comparison, Arizona spent $12,000 per pupil for FY24. And we know we're in FY26, but that's what they're reporting for FY24. So they're saying that Arizona is $5,616 below the $17,619 national average. There we go. And the problem with that is, I get a lot of different numbers. So Arizona has the nation's worst student-teacher ratio. So that's what this report is saying. This is, and again, I'll bring up the source of this so folks can see this. This is the source, and you know what they say about sources. They could be anything. They can be anything. So I just put the source up there. So what they're saying is Arizona is 47th in teacher ratio. Okay, the NAA reports 22.6 students per teacher compared to 15.1 nationally. That is the second highest behind Nevada, 25-1 ratio. Arizona is 47th in safety. That appears outdated, and it is. However, the Wall Hub report of 2026 ranking places Arizona at the 41st in safety. Arizona has a 77% graduation rate. Consumer Affairs uses a 77% figure. That is a methodology, and it says that graduation data, they're from the 2020, 21, 22. So I don't even know why they're trying to put that in the 2026 analysis. So that's just some of the highlights. Okay, what they are saying that is wrong. It's going on with our Arizona schools. So, here's the deal. First of all, I want to say we have some great teachers in Arizona. We really do. It is not. Whoa. Let me fix this. We got some great teachers in Arizona, and it is not the teachers. By far, it is not the teachers. A lot of teachers get a bad rap on this thing, and they get a bad rap because folks will say, get on there and, well, teachers getting paid too much or this or that. Do not do. Come on, let's stop. Okay, a person does not go through all the years they go through to be a teacher, to give back to kids, just to do some of the things that some of the folks are saying. So let's stop with that. We need to protect our teachers. We need to protect what they're trying to do. The good teachers, the good teachers. And I've met some good teachers, particularly in my district. For example, the Navajo superintendent of public instruction, the school district here, and in White Mountains. Those folks do some hard work. Some of the teachers are the teachers in Snowflake High School, Apache Junction High School, Gila County High School, Payson High School. These teachers do some hard work. So when these numbers come out, I don't equate these numbers to the teachers that are doing the hard work. So I want to make sure that I put that out there. Teachers are hardworking. The numbers don't lie, though, when we're talking about funding, when we're talking about student ratio, when we're talking about some of the other figures that they're talking about. Now, the 77% of graduation rates, I don't know about that too much. We need to check on that. But why am I talking about this? Well, ESA is under attack. And it is under attack because we have a proposition going to the ballot in November, and that's going to drive a lot of people to the ballot. Some folks say it's only going to drive Democrats to the ballot. No, I think it's going to drive both sides to the ballot because it's really important that folks see what's really going on. So, as you recall, as I said yesterday, I think it came out, and there was a judge tossed out the school choice ballot measure that was sent up from Senator Jake Hoffman. I think he is in Gilbert. I'm not sure. And I'm going to play this clip for you so you can see it, and you can just listen to what they're talking about when they're talking about school choice.
A measure that could kill efforts to reform Arizona's ESA school voucher program may not make your ballot after all. I'm ABC 15 political reporter Manuela Tebec, breaking down what this means.
It's a sense of relief. We are overjoyed.
The group behind an ESA reform initiative is breathing easier after a judge sided with them and tossed another measure off November's ballot.
Every once in a while, you get a little good news and you feel affirmed that the system is working the way that it's supposed to.
In the final hours of this year's session, state lawmakers passed a last-minute ballot referral that would wipe out the Protect Education Act.
It was beyond sneaky.
Proposition 145 would bar the state from confiscating scholarship money awarded to kids of military families, including ESA funds. It's a constitutional amendment. It would also wipe out entirely any initiative or bill that would let the state take back scholarship money, including Proposition 212, this year's ESA reform initiative.
So they're just throwing every single bit of little spaghetti at the wall that they can.
A judge ruled the military families proposition is unconstitutional, saying the two provisions should be separate amendments. A House Republican spokesman tells me Speaker Steve Montenegro believes the court got it wrong. He and the conservative Goldwater Institute plan to appeal. In a statement, the Institute told me Arizona law strongly supports the position that this is a single amendment to the Constitution, and Arizonans should be given the opportunity to vote on these important protections for our military families. You won't see one other education-related measure in November. A judge yanked a measure to restrict school unions, saying it was unconstitutional, and the legislature will let that ruling stand. In Phoenix, Manuela Tebec, ABC 15 Arizona.
They were talking about that, as you see. And those are folks, of course, those are folks that are for or the ballot measure to strip parent choice, school choice from parents coming into Arizona. Let me turn this off quickly. We don't want that. There we go. Sorry about that, everybody. So that's what that one is for. That's what I mean. Those are folks that are wanting it to go to the ballot to strip school choice. So the ballot measure that went up, actually, the one that went up with Senator Hoffman when he put that up. This is the part that I really don't like about that. Yes, military kids military families deserve school choice. Okay, and I'll get into that why. But using the backs of military kids for an initiative is not the way to go about doing it. That's just my personal opinion. Okay, that's just not the way to go about doing it. We could have done it a couple of different ways. However, it is what it is. It wasn't my bill. I support the bill because I support school choice. I support families being able to dictate where their kids go, not the government. However, it's just that part kind of okay. Why are we doing this? Now, let me show this one real quick. I took a look at this one, and it kind of touched me a little. So let me show you this one, and it speaks to military kids.
My name is Carol Day. I'm an active duty military wife. We have had a really fun and adventurous life, and our daughter Savannah has always been in tow, and she's very resilient because of being a military kiddo. One of the downsides of being a military spouse is that you put your husband's service to the United States over your own needs. We have sacrificed a lot every time we move. We lose a house with a good interest rate. We lose a good school. We lose a good paying job. And so before you know it, his money is going towards bills and mine is going towards just groceries, basically, because of how expensive it is. And what is there for Savannah and tuition? Not much. So we applied for the tax credit. I had no idea the tax credit existed until I had buyers that told me about it. And I was like, wait, what is this? I've been living here 3 years. I haven't heard of this. But we did not get the tax credit this past year because we applied for it too late. There was no funding left. Luckily, Mr. Martin was so helpful. He got us hooked up with the parish and then also the archdiocese, and they were able to cover her first semester. And so now this spring, we are paying out of pocket. What I see in this school is a family, a very faith-based family, and I am not going to give that up for Savannah. And the tax credit gives us that opportunity to be here in a small town and focus on building a family.
This affects military families greatly, and it does. And I'm going to tell you how it affected this on it really quickly. Alrighty. So I'm going to show you. I'm going to let you know how it affected my family greatly. So a lot of folks know I spent a lot of time in the military. I actually grew up in a military family, and I was in military schools, not like marching around military schools, but Department of Defense schools. And we moved a lot too when I was younger. I spent a lot of time, as you know, in Germany with that. However, when my kids were growing up in the system, we moved a lot more because the deployment, rapid moves between here in the States and so on and so forth. So in some of the places that we moved to, we didn't have the opportunity for school choice. For example, when we moved to California, Fort Irwin, we were there twice, same place, and it was in Barstow. Okay, so my kids had to go to a school in California. My older ones that were actually able to get on the bus and go to the high school and go to school. They had to ride like 40 minutes off post to go to a school. Now, in that situation, if I was able to use ESA or school choice or funding, then I would have definitely done that. I would have put my kids in an ESA because they had some families had the not charter schools, but the schools where they would just keep their kids at home and teach their kids at home, because the bus ride was like 40, 45 minutes. And if your kid played a sport like mine did, they left at 6 a.m. in the morning, 06, and didn't get home until 17, 1800. Um, and so it's a long day for kids. So if I had an opportunity to do that, then definitely I would have put my kids in an ESA. Also, I will tell you, if you have not put your kids in a California school system, I will tell you right now, they suck. Plain and simple. Those schools are the worst schools that you could put your kids in. And if I had ESA, while we were stationed in California, I would have definitely put my kids in use the ESA programs. Now, with the counter proposition that Senator Hoffman ran up to the ballot, was supposed to protect dollars that went to ESA dollars that military kids got. But I want to make something clear. It wasn't just going to military kids. It was going to all kids. However, with the proposition that is going to the ballot to strip away those dollars, military kids are going to be affected because those dollars are included in the whole package. So it's just not military kids that are losing those dollars. However, families of military personnel will be affected. And this was the one place that military families could go and know that they could use ESA dollars to be able to get their kids resynced, if you will, back into their academics or where they usually are. So it's sort of like an up and down, like a roller coaster for your kids. If you're a military parent and you had kids go through the school system, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So when my kid, again, we'll talk about my youngest. My youngest, when we were in Germany, she was born in California at Fort Irwin. We got transferred to Germany in Vilseck, Germany, and she started kindergarten over there, or pre-K or something like that. And the deal is that and on military basis overseas, if your kid's like in pre-K like that, you can put your kid in a school of your choice. So my older kids went to the high school and to the middle school, which was the Department of Defense education system, which is a great system. I grew up in that system, went to school that system, and my little one, my little kiddo, we were able to put her in a German school. It was a Catholic school. We were able to put her in that school because we had a choice to be able to do that. And they didn't have pre-K in that system that I was just talking about. So it was kindergarten. I'm sorry. So she got placed in that school. We put her in that school. We had the choice. We were able to do it. It was great. They taught her so many things. She had to learn German, and even today she understands and speaks German because of that. Now, when we came back to the States, they sent me to El Paso, Texas, Fort Bliss, Texas, and this is for all of my children. My kids left the Department of Defense education system and the school choice part of, if you want to call it just school choice, for my daughter. We all came back to the States, and when we put them in the school system, the public school system was here, and they were up here. I'm talking a stark difference. My kids were AB students. I had one of my kids was in the AB honor roll or something like that. At the end of the day, they were up here academically, and when we put them in the school, the collectively, some of those folks the rating was down here. Okay. So spent 3 years in El Paso, right? And after they left, or after we left, we went back to Germany and El Paso. After we left, guess what? They were here. And it is not because my kids lost any type of knowledge is they taught, because it wasn't school choice over there. I don't know what they're having now, but they taught to the level of the student here, my kids here, but they taught to this level, which pulled my kid down. Okay. And that's that. There was some deal, all kids have to be the same in academics. That's totally horse crap. So their program pulled my kids down academically. Now they still left with ABs. However, when they went back to a school, a DoD school, they had to catch up to get back where they were. And that happens. That's the roller coaster effect. That happens a lot with military families because it's unpredictable what you're going to get. So the only saving grace in that is if you go overseas and your kid goes to a DoD school, or you're allowed to put your kid in the school of your choice, or you can teach them at home. Now in Arizona, military families are not going to be able to have that option, along with Arizona kids and families, because of the proposition that's going to the ballot that strips that away. So when these families come from overseas or what have you, they're going to look at the what we have here when we're talking about ratings and so on and so forth, and they're going to probably say, hey, you know what? I don't know if I want to put my kid in that system. I don't know if I want to do that. Now, I will tell you, the reason why I came to Arizona and put my kids back in, and I can't speak for the other schools. However, every time between moves, they moved me during an off cycle. So that off cycle was when they moved us, the kids were they were still in school and it overlapped. So I would have to go first, then the kids and the wife would come second, but we were still in that sweet spot where we had to re-enroll them in a school when we got back to the States. It was weird. Okay. So every year that we moved, we PCS, permanent change of station, we would come to Snowflake. We came to Snowflake for two reasons. One, we love the area. And two, we knew that the school system in Snowflake would get our kids back where they need to be, because the teachers are top-notch teachers in Snowflake. Not saying other teachers are not. I'm just talking about our experiences here in Snowflake, Arizona. Okay, so prime example, when we were leaving California, put our kids in Snowflake. I went fourth. The kids finished their school. Then they came over to Germany, so on and so forth, because we had confidence in the school system here in Arizona. Okay. And that was long before I got into politics. As a parent, I was like, this is pretty good. And we would talk about, and if we wanted to, just have a choice of where we could put our kid, we would do that. But the beauty of it is that we could put our kid in any school in Arizona that we wanted as parents. And as parents, we said Snowflake is the best place that we could put our kids. It's a public school. That was the best place we could put our kids because of past experiences. We knew when our kids went back into a DoD system, which is pretty tough academically, that they would be at where they're supposed to be, especially after we left a system that we didn't have a choice to put our kids in those schools. Now, I want to come at it from the other side. Okay. I've already told you what I would do, what I want to do if I were a kid, if my kids were still in school now and I was getting ready to retire. Now, when we were getting ready to retire, I asked Christy, so where do you want to retire at? Okay. I wanted to come to Arizona. She wanted to come back home to Arizona. We already knew that part. Okay. However, if we were trying to decide on a state where we wanted to retire, where we wanted our kids to finish, and I saw a fact sheet that said in 2026, according to the Wallet Hub report, that Arizona ranks 49th K through 12, I would say, you know what? That ain't good. I don't know if we should move there. However, guess what they have? They have ESA. Wow, that means we could put our kids in a school or a charter school or a homeschool them based on our values, based on where they were academically, and they would still be able to maintain academically, be ready for college, so on and so forth. Now, I see this, and say that ballot passes. As a vet, I'm going to say there is no way in hell I am going to Arizona when I see data like that. The data may be wrong. However, that's what I see. And then when you're paying attention as a parent, you're like, okay, so do they have anything that we could, get a scholarship for our kids to make sure they're in good school? No. They sent that to the ballot, and some folks who are against school choice took it away. So no more school choice in Arizona. Now, some folks will say, well, we're not taking away all school choice. It's an income level. You're taking away choice of a parent where they put their kid or how they educate their kid. And I liken it to like this. You have two schools, right? You got a failing school, and you have the opportunity to send your kid to a school using ESA. Okay? As a parent, what are you going to do? You're going to send your kid to a failing school? No, you're not going to do that. You're going to send your kid to the school that gives them the best success or the best possible success that they can have when they get out of school. So they are performing at a level that puts them above the rest. That's what you're going to do as a parent. You throw politics out the window. I don't care who voted for what or this. I just know at the end of the day, if that school is failing right here, but there's a possibility where I can send my kid to another school, guess what I'm going to do? I am going to take advantage of the ESA, use it properly, be accountable for it, but ensure that my kid have the proper tools to succeed. Now, you can't do that because it's going to strip it. And when we start messing with ESAs, that is a slippery slope. Just like the Constitution, when people try to play with the Constitution, it's a slippery slope. Now, as a vet, being the chair, one of the co-chairs of the Veterans Caucus, one of the initiatives that we are pushing, and as me as a lawmaker pushing for veterans issues, is to get more vets into Arizona. Why? Because number one, that's an increase on revenue. We've got talent coming in. We've got some smart folks that are disciplined, that want to work, that want to start businesses, so on and so forth. And a lot of those folks are veterans. Now we just kind of wiped away another incentive for military families to move to Arizona. Now, the bad part, though, is that when you retire, you have a choice. You can go, well, I'm going to a place that, my kid is going to be able to get a great education. However, if you are stationed here, if your orders send you to Fort Huachuca or Luke Air Force Base or wherever you go, you don't have a choice. You have to go to war, or go to jail. Yeah. Go to Fort Huachuca or go to jail. And your kids now lose that opportunity, will have the potential to lose that opportunity if this ballot initiative stripping away or restricting ESA funds to these families. strips it away. Now, what type of impression do you think that active duty family is going to have now about ESAs if this thing passes at the ballot? Because if there were anything like my wife and I, my sweetheart, our kids' education is priority. That's why we didn't go back to California when I retired, because their school system sucked. That was one of the deciding factors. Now we're sitting at 49. Okay, we're looking at the student ratio to teacher. They're saying like 22.6 to 1 teacher. Okay, graduation rates 77% at 2021 to 2022. I want to be fair in that. And I see that, and then I send my kids to these schools, and ESA is stripped. I have to send my kids to a failing school. Remember we was talking about that? There's no way in hell I'm going to come back to Arizona to send my kid back to a system that as a first time with, if I'm seeing this first time, I'm looking at, well, this is a failing system. Why would I put my kid in this system? Why would I retire in a place that would do? Now, we know the inside of some of this stuff. Some of this stuff is biased. But as a military person, I didn't care about the state politics other than, is my family going to be able to if I have to live off post, am I going to be able to put my kid in a school of our choice? Christianized choice. Am I going to be able to do that? I didn't care about the politics. Only thing I cared about was that. And if we couldn't do it, wow, they offer this program. This is great. Just like that lady said in the beginning. So, however, I am in politics in Arizona, and fortunately, my kids were able to finish up in schools here. So my two oldest, my son Cater, he graduated from a DoD school, went on to college. My son Britton, he graduated from a DoD school, went on to college, started his own business. My son Trey, John, and Sarah graduated from schools here in northern Arizona. This is why we came back to this place. Now, school choice. Not only do we have the ESA funding that works for military families or for families in general, you can send your kid to a school outside of your zip code in whatever district you live in. Case in point, my son Trey played basketball and he played football, but a lot better in basketball. Played basketball in Germany. The kid just awesome. Okay, awesome. My son Britton was an all-Europe quarterback, all-California male athlete. So my kids were big into sports. So when we moved here, Trey was still in school. John was still in school. Sarah was little. And when Trey was in high school, when we got Snowflake, he had friends that went to Sholo. And he wanted to play ball in Sholo. There was no problem. I was able to send him to Sholo when he played ball. No problem at all. Now, let's say they didn't have that here. Or we wanted to use ESA. And we probably couldn't have done it if this ballot went up the time when I was leaving. Now, there's some figures that I want to talk about when we're talking about ESA, and some of the argument of why some of the folks on the left want to get rid of ESA. What they are saying is they found that 58.6% of the newly enrolling or newly enrolled students in grades 1 through 12 have attended Arizona public schools immediately before entering an ESA program. 58.6% of our kids went to a public school, and it may be higher, parents said, you know what, I'm not doing that. I'm going to use ESA. It's, I can put my kid in a school that it's going to fit. Now I'm talking using ESA responsibly. Now, 3/4 of ESA awards were between 7,000 and 9,000. The total volume of analyzed awards was approximately, we're talking total, collectively across the state, was $1.1 billion. That $1.1 billion is collectively the value of the awards. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean the same thing as actual expenditures made during that time. So expenditures are different. However, they're talking collectively. Anybody know what the budget is for K through 12 right now? $7 billion plus, north or south. Now, the strongest argument from ESA supporters, to include myself, is really simple. Parents should not have to leave their children in a school that is unsafe or failing. We shouldn't have to do that as a parent. If a school is failing, why am I going to leave my kid in there? And I gave you that comparison. You got a failing school over here. You got a good school over here. You got ESA. Oh, I'm going to send my kid to the school that's failing and the one that is drug infested. I'm going to do that. There is no one in the world that would do that. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. If you are a parent, a good parent, and you are concerned about your kid's education and you have an opportunity to use ESA responsibly without government getting involved in what you do as a parent, then guess what? I don't care who you are, your ideology, your political side, you're going to send your kid to a school where they're not going to get knifed, or they're going to fall behind or be one of those 77% or those folks that are not in the 77 percentile that doesn't graduate. I don't care who you are. You can sit up here and tell me anything. Guess what? Stevie Wonder see that don't work. And guess what? It does not. So some of these folks that want to strip ESA, not everybody, I'm saying some of these folks that want to strip ESA, they are forcing government to dictate where parents send their kids to school. Now, I know there's some folks that'll disagree with me on that. That's okay. That's why we have the First Amendment. That's why I've started also saying that not all teachers are bad. We have a lot of good teachers. The program is what we need to fix. Not the teachers are doing the best that they can do. The school districts are working overtime, bending over and breaking their backs doing this. It is the system that we need to fix. Okay? So here's some more. Supporting public schools does not require eliminating a parent's right to choose another educational setting. So a lot of the argument on the floor is that ESA dollars are taking away those dollars that go to public schools. That is untrue. Okay, first of all, the ratio is different. ESA kids get far less dollars than public school kids. They really do. Now, with that being said, I want to make this very clear. We cannot abandon our public schools. And that's where the system is broken. How are we looking at this system to protect ESA dollars, parent choice, and continue to fund public schools at the rates they need to be funded at? Because up here, we have public schools, and the majority of our families send our kids or their kids to the public school system. We've got a lot that go through ESA, use ESA dollars. Okay. But if you have to work and you are a 2-parent working household, okay, and you can't afford to be out of work, then guess what? You are going to send your kid to a public high school or a public school. And fortunately, we have a good system here and Snowflake Taylor, K through 12. I'm not leaving, I know I've got a big district, and I guarantee you there's somebody over there, somebody on there clickbaking right now. He's not talking about the rest of the school district. I didn't send my kids down to Apache Junction. I didn't send them to Payson High School. I sent my kids here in Snowflake, and that's what I know. Okay? That is what I know. Okay? So protecting parental choice, including ESA, charter schools, private school, religious schools, homeschooling, and open schooling is the thing to do. Now, my position in Arizona as a lawmaker, I already told you the first one. The second thing is maintaining a strong financial control over ESA and spending so fraud or misuse do not determine if a program exists or not. Now, we can monitor fraud. We put those people or hold those people accountable that are using those dollars unwisely and holding them accountable. We can do both. We're smart enough to do both. But why punish the folks that are doing it right, that are being responsible, that are sending their kids, are teaching their kids how they teach them in some of these home schools? Why punish them? Because collectively overall, you don't like the fact that some bad actors have used those dollars irresponsibly, illegally, and now we want to put a blanket punishment over those families that use ESA the way they're supposed to use ESA. We just want to punish everybody now. And I also hear the argument, well, our kids are getting hurt because of ESA dollars. Guess what? That's a double-edged sword, everyone. Again, if I am forced to put my kid in a system that is broken, who does that hurt? And a lot of folks do this because of a political agenda. Okay, a political agenda. And again, if the shoe fits, wear it. And if you are using this as a political agenda to advance whatever it is that is. So we need to hold people accountable that are misusing ESA dollars. Republicans are not saying we shouldn't do that. We're not saying we shouldn't do that. You should do that. But we also shouldn't take away that choice from parents because there are a few bad apples. Let us as legislators go after those bad apples. Let us do that. But now our hands are tied if this thing passes. We're not only going to have the ability to go after these folks, number one, you have taken our kids some tools away from families, parental choice, so kids can succeed. You are taking some of those things away. And in some places, you are pushing our kids back into a system that may be broken. That's not taking care of the kid. That's a political talking point to some folks, not all. To some folks that are pushing some of these agendas. And again, it does not only just hurt military kids, it hurts kids in all of our school systems. Now, third, we need to target additional public school investment towards teachers, classroom instruction, literacy, mathematics, special education, school safety, and rural transportation, and not just administrative growth. That's what we need to do. We need to put more money into the classroom. Now, for every dollar that goes to the school, when I started in the legislature back in It was really flip-flopped. However, I can say that a lot of administrators and a lot of districts are self-governing and trying to put more money into the classroom. However, when you have to fix a heat or a heater or an air conditioner unit, and you're not in that school district is not getting the money that they need, we need to take another look at what we're doing as lawmakers. And when a teacher has to go to the Dollar Tree to buy supplies out of their own pocket, we can't blame the teachers. We can't do that. We need to take a hard look at ourselves as lawmakers and say, okay, why are teachers having to spend money out of their own pocket? And why are parents pulling their kids out of public schools? That should be the core question as lawmakers that we need to look at and we need to ask. We need to do a self-assessment as lawmakers, as elected officials, as school board members, as members on the Arizona school boards. Are we asking ourselves those hard questions, even the ones we don't like? Why are parents pulling their kids out of public schools? Why are teachers spending money out of their own pockets for supplies? Why are more dollars going to the cafeteria during the summer so kids can have a meal to eat? Why is that? And if we don't want to answer those questions collectively and honestly, this thing right here, this ESA, the proposition, it all comes down into it. But we can't play games when we go back up there to the back in session. We can't play games. This should not be a political football on either side. Red for Ed. What the hell are you doing down at the Capitol when you should be in the classroom teaching kids? Why are you doing that? And why do we have folks that are misusing ESA dollars and we are not holding them wholly accountable? There should be some people sitting in our prison system for fraud. So if we want to send a message that we are going to hold those folks accountable, some of those folks should be in prison or however what the statute says about fraud. But I challenge my colleagues when we go back to be able to answer these questions and work together to try to fix this problem. 49th, everyone. 49th. 22.6 ratio, student to teacher ratio. That's not politics. I mean that's not the teacher's fault, the administrator's fault, the school district's fault. That is how we as leaders are looking at this problem. This is a problem. And we shouldn't go after parents because they want to pull their kid out of a school that's failing. That is on us as lawmakers. I don't care what district you're in. I don't care what level of government you're in. That is our responsibility, just like a broken system like DCS. That is our responsibility. And we have a responsibility to fix it and stop bumping our gums as lawmakers and coming up with excuses of why we can't fix something or pointing fingers at each other. I used to have a drill sergeant. You say, you got it, I got it, and nobody's got it. Or you get what you got and you got what you deserve. We have, at the end of the day, we have a broken system. We have a broken system. And that system, we are failing our kids. We are failing our parents. That's why parents want ESA. Let's keep it, and let's let parents decide how their kids are educated, not government. If a parent wants to send their kid to a public school, that is their right to do it. We shouldn't get involved as a government. The only thing we should be doing as a government is ensuring that we have funding to go to those schools and funding and opportunity for parents who want school choice. Now, I'm going to say the unmistakable, uncomfortable truth. $7 billion go into K through 12 funding, and we are 49th. What in the hell is going on? Because all I hear is we're not putting enough money into education, but we're putting almost half of our budget into education. But we still have failing schools. 77%, we have a 77% graduation rate. I read somewhere that we have a third grade average of our kids can read. But $7 billion goes into education. Now, there's a couple of things that are wrong with that. We need to ask ourselves some hard questions. When have we updated the funding formula? It's been a while. It's been a while. Why aren't we able to keep good teachers? Well, for my Republican colleagues, we're not paying them because they leave. I'm talking good teachers. The bad ones, you can go. I'm talking good teachers. We are losing good teachers every single day. They go to another state because they're able to make a living. They're able to pay for their kids' school. They're able to survive. Now, some folks say, well, they're making enough money anyway. Have you seen what a teacher makes? Have you actually seen what a teacher makes? You can, in today's economy, you can make like 6 figures and you're still broke. So we need to take a look at that as lawmakers and compensate those teachers based on their ability and how they perform, not just a blanket raise. Because we shouldn't reward bad teachers. Just like we shouldn't reward a program that is broken. Some folks aren't going to like that. Okay? If we mean business, we will go back next session and we'll do that. We will handle business. That's my dog. Sorry, y'all. We'll look across the aisle. We'll say, okay, we don't agree on some things. However, we should agree on how we fund our schools, keeping ESA, allowing parents to choose, and making sure that our public schools are able to perform because we give them the resources they need. Now, a lot of that's not Republican talking points. We cannot just do away with public schools. Rural areas, you can't do that. And low-income areas like Navajo County, you can't do that because both parents have to work. Families and parents cannot afford for both parents to stay home. They can't. They have to go to work. And if they don't have dollars or the opportunity to send their kids to a micro school or a charter school or what have you, or wherever they're going to send their kids, if they don't have the opportunity to do that because they have to work, they've done the math, they're going to send their kids to a public school. And fortunately, Snowflake School District has gotten it right. Now, and that's what I want to bring up. Switching over to the public side. Snowflake School District has gotten it right. What are they doing? Let's look across the state and see how they're using their dollars. Oh, here's a noble ideal. How about as a state, we get out of this and we let the districts, the school boards do their job instead of tying their hands? We issue the check. One size does not fit all. Some people are, oh no, we can't let them do that. So I'll ask you this for those folks who say that. And a lot of folks who say that don't want the U.S. Department of Education anymore. I don't either. But I also don't think that big government, state government, should get involved at that level when districts are not the same. They're not the same. So why are we not allowing school districts that are acting in good faith to handle their business? That's what we need to do. So everybody, listen. We need to look at some things before I go. And these are things that I believe in as a conservative. And it's a paradox when we're talking about education. So, freedom, funding, and outcomes. The freedom for a parent to be able to choose whether they send their kids to a public school or to use ESA dollars without big government getting involved. That proposition that strips away ESA puts big government in charge. They do. School choice versus school performance. We need to be thinking about that. Arizona education. Are we leading in school choice as we were? Or are we looking at data, real data, and are we lagging in some of those results? That's what we need to look at. But the main thing and what I stand by is protecting parental choice while fixing our school systems, while fixing and maintaining our public schools. But don't take away my right as a parent to choose where I send my child for political talking points because you simply want to win on either side. We shouldn't do that. I got a few questions here. I'm going to go to it. Thanks, Pam. Appreciate your go, Walt. Sandy, appreciate you. You're saying exactly. Thank you so much. AJ, let me put this up there for folks. Where you're at. So, sorry about that. So Sandy says AJ Unified School District is offering classes for homeschoolers, and it will be charged back to ESA dollars, which is a great ideal for both our kids. It's a great step forward for both ESA and public schools. There you go, right there. How about we let local folks at the local level come up with these ideals, like my good friend Sandy here, and let's let them do what they know that is right. AJ school system is different from our school district. Is Gilbert school district is different from Gilbert or what have you. Thanks so much for that comment. AZDCS. Too many people are just surviving. That's not the way to live. And guess what? That fits straight into ESA. I mentioned it. I talked about it. Some families have to use public school system because they cannot afford not to work, because people are just surviving. So we have to make sure we're taking care of public schools. But again, don't take away my choice as a parent for a political talking point or political win. Don't do that. Let me have my choice to be able to send my kid to the school that I want to. Bradley, appreciate you. Thank you for doing today's and your perspective. Appreciate that I do appreciate that. We are coming up on the 8:30 hour. I want to say this. A lot of, and I'm going to go ahead and say this, and I don't care if folks get upset. A lot of minorities, and I can only speak for the Black community, a lot of folks in my community, the Black community, use ESA dollars. Some folks are falling out of jail. What? Yeah. If you look across the nation, there are more Black parents putting their kids in private schools are using these types of funds. I don't know how they are in the rest of the states, this, if it's called ESA or what, are using ESA as an alternative to failing inner city schools. And so the very narrative that this hurts minority families and minority kids for ESA to stay in place, that is totally off the rocker. Again, I told you about my experience, our family's experience with our kids, but you know what? Don't use that. Don't use Black families are hurting. Minority kids are hurting because minority families are using ESA dollars. They are using charter schools. They are using systems that work for their children. Everybody, I'm Walt Blackman, and I hope that you enjoyed this segment of the Walt Blackman show. Again, if you want to be able to watch, or correction, if you want to be able to watch this again, all you got to do is go to my Facebook. You can go to my YouTube. We could put the clips out there. And also, again, you can leave your comments here. You can also listen to my podcast that comes out every single Monday. It didn't come out today because we're still trying to get that out. You can go to that, and you can download that, listen to that. And if you do that, I need you to make sure that you like, and you share, and you follow. Make sure you do that, and make sure that you are, just following and listening along. Great podcast for folks. Want you to be able to listen to that. Want you to be able to prescribe to that. Make sure you do that. It is Walt Blackman Podcast. It's on YouTube. Correction. It's on Spotify. It's on Apple. And it is, it's pretty good, I think. So everybody take care. I'm Walt Blackman. See you next week, or correction. I will see you. Today is Tuesday. Well, today is Saturday. Holy smokes. I'm already thinking it's working. I will see you Monday. And we'll do another one of these on Monday. It'll be a different topic. Make sure you're following. Take care, everybody. I'm Walt Blackman. And make sure you stay informed. Make sure you are part of the solution and not part of the